Hey everyone, it's Michael Kikle. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for my first ever Hulk trade paperback, but this isn't a trade paperback, it's a digital Kindle ebook Nook thing. Anyway, I've never read a Hulk comic trade or anything like that, so I wanted to try one out. I've been in the mood for something a little bit differently before I had this big Superman phase recently, so I tried this out just to see what it would be like, and trying to work through my old backlog on my old Nook from back in the day. And I came across a book that I hadn't touched yet out of the 2 or 3 Hulk trades I'd picked up. This is called Hulk, The End. And this has 2 different storylines in it, both written by Peter David himself, who I've always heard from people like Blows Himself Up Dude back in the day, that apparently he has the best run on Hulk material ever, so I wanted to see if that was true. And I grew up with like the Eric Bana Hulk and the Ed Norton Hulk and the old... is it Bill Bixby? Is that his name from the old TV show? I grew up on all of that Hulk stuff. And, you know, the cartoon from the 90s. And I like Hulk a lot. But I never knew how much I would like him in the comics. And I gotta tell you, Peter David knocked it out of the park. The first 2 stories out of the 3 in here are tied together. They're called Future Imperfect, number 1 and number 2. I'm assuming these came out in like the 70s, the 80s. I want to say it's the 80s, judging by the artwork. And, the second story in here is called Hulk the End, the Final Titan, according to the actual page you go to start reading that story. So, every one of these 3 issues are 50 pages apiece. The book overall is about 160 pages in total. You have some nice little things in here, like an introduction, some art, that kind of stuff. Very nice. The art on all 3 issues is beautifully drawn, done by different people between the first story and the second story, the Final Titan, and I liked all of that. Both stories, Future Imperfect and Hulk the End, are like apocalyptic stories, which was kind of interesting. Let me start with Future Imperfect, I guess. Basically, the Hulk wakes up in the future. He's not really sure what's going on, but he got drug into the future somehow, some way. The book doesn't really go too far into that. It kind of keeps it vague, but then gives you a small couple of, discussion bubbles about it. But basically, somebody drew him into the future somehow, and the Hulk is stuck there, going up against this guy called Maestro. Now, a lot of Hulk fans out there who might be coming across this video may already know who Maestro is, his identity, so on and so on. You have to understand how big of a deal this was for me, reading this for the first time ever, not knowing anything about the character called Maestro. I've seen the look of him on different things. I've seen him on newer releases of comic books that I picked up. And I've never known anything about him. I've never really read anything about him or seen him even cameo in anything, really. Never heard it mentioned in, like, MCU movies or anything like that. Maybe I'll go back and see if there's any reference to him. But I had never heard anything about a character called Maestro, and he's a very Hulk-like being. He seems older. He's much more of a warrior type, almost like a Genghis Khan type that is very, almost a slave driver, if you will. He has, like, sex slaves that he holds on to who actually don't even view it as slavery. They're all into him, dude, which is weird. But he's a Hulk-like being with this huge, massive Santa Claus beard, and he's kind of a threat. He has like a whole empire built up and everything, and eventually he encounters the Hulk and tries to take him captive too in the future, but Hulk is not really fighting for others. He's kind of fighting for himself, and this Maestro guy is getting in his way of doing that. So it's kind of interesting watching these two, and I wouldn't even say they're egos, but just watching them confront each other. Now, this Hulk in this timeline, this era of comics with the Hulk, he doesn't really transform back and forth between Bruce Banner and Hulk. I don't know if this is when they kind of combined their brains into one body or something. I'm not really sure when that was. It's not the lame-o Doc whatever Hulk that a lot of people know with the long ponytail that looks stupid as shit. It's not like that. But this Hulk doesn't transform back and forth. It's not Bruce Banner getting a little upset because he stubbed his toe and then turning into the Hulk. It's not like that. But I like this version of the Hulk. I never thought I would like this version, but I do. And it was a pretty badass story, man. There's a lot of adult stuff in here. This is one of those kind of things that I'm surprised that Marvel ever put this out. And I guess allowed kids to be able to buy it, because it does have a lot of adult stuff, like the sex slavery stuff, and even the gaslighting of these girls thinking they're not in sex slavery is pretty interesting. But I liked that. I thought the action was great, the fighting, the twists, all of it. The character writing from Peter David was great. There's this one character that is familiar to a lot of Hulk fans out there, not me, but maybe you, maybe some other people, that is a character that a lot of people know of, and he has a lot of souvenirs in the small museum that he has. He's an old man. And you'll see, like, Captain America's broken shield. You'll see, like, Wolverine's skeleton with the claws and stuff. Because pretty much every superhero at this point has been killed off by Maestro. It was a pretty cool apocalyptic story, but in the future where you have, like, ray guns and that kind of thing, and that was different. I've never read anything like that with comics, much less Hulk stuff. Never experienced that with Hulk stuff. So it was kind of neat. It was something different, and I would tell you overall, I'd recommend the whole book, Hulk the End. If you haven't read it before, alone on that story, the Future Imperfect or whatever it's called, that stuff is great, man. But anyway, moving along to the other story in here that's weaker compared to Future Imperfect. This one is the other one I talked about a moment ago, Hulk the End, the Final Titan. It's about 50 pages. It's basically a standalone story from what I understand, a one-shot, if you will. From Peter David, like I said, and the art is much more updated because it's a newer comic compared to the Future Imperfect work that Peter David did. And this stuff, the art is beautiful on it. I might like the art more than I like the Future Imperfect art, to be honest with you. The writing is a little bit more in Bruce Banner's head, because this Hulk is also in an apocalypse, but probably not the same exact one. Basically, this Bruce Banner is stuck in a world that was killed off with everything. Death, sickness, illness, these giant bugs that are radioactive and try to kill him all the time too, which ties me to my next point. This particular story is dark as shit. It is such a dark book, story, whatever. It's very bloody and gory. There are moments where you see the Hulk just torn up to bits and having to regenerate because of these massive bugs he fights. And it's pretty wild, dude. But Bruce Banner also has this little orb, this sphere, that looks like the game sphere or whatever from Drake and Josh back in the day. And it keeps following around, recording him, because it's for aliens to view what happened to the downfall of humanity and the downfall of the final human, which is Bruce Banner. And every time he tries to capture it, it just swings itself away. It kind of levitates and floats. And if he turns into the Hulk and tries to capture it, he can't capture it either. It either goes too high up in the air, which seemed like kind of bullshit to me, because we saw Hulk jump from like continent to continent in the Eric Bana movie. But he can't capture this thing for some reason. And it kind of bothers him that there are clearly people on the other side of this basically television camera that are watching him and recording him, but they're not going to help him. It bothers him that he's by himself, but not really, you know? A lot of it is just him wandering around as an older Bruce Banner, like really old Bruce Banner, like 60, 70 years old, and wondering, will he ever die? And if he does, will the Hulk take over? And there's also that combative thing against Hulk and Bruce, where they're both kind of mentally against each other. Sometimes the Hulk just takes over. Bruce doesn't even have to be angry for the Hulk to take over at certain moments in this story. And I found that fascinating, because I've never really experienced that before. I've heard people like Blows Himself Up Dude back in the day talk on YouTube about that with some Hulk things. And I'd never read that before, like I said, being kind of new to Hulk comics. But overall, I mean, it was a good story. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't anything that I think is super memorable, aside from the sphere thing and the apocalypse. But this story was very much a lesser story compared to the previous one with Future Imperfect in this volume, because of the lack of an antagonist that wasn't just natural lack of resources or anything like that. But it was still cool. It had its moments, and I liked it. I thought that the gore and stuff kind of amped up, I guess, The Last of Us kind of storytelling that this story had. It was interesting. The Hulk the End was worth the time, I would say, overall as a whole volume with both of these stories collected in here. Peter David's a hell of a writer, man. I saw a lot of his good traits in 2099 when I read that, and this is good too. So I'd like to see more about his work sometime, read some more Hulk Peter David work, or just Peter David in general, I guess. So anyway, when it comes to Hulk the End, I'd recommend it to you whether you're a big Hulk fan or not, whether you're a big Hulk movie fan or not. I think anybody could read this and have a good time with it, even if you're a horror fan more than anything and you like superheroes and you like Hulk and you like Marvel, check it out. You might have some cool stuff in here and some twists you never knew about characters that you may or may not have seen in, comic issues you may have come across or video games or anything like that with characters like Maestro. That was pretty cool stuff. I liked it a lot, and I recommend it on that alone. So anyway, the art is good too. Check it out on that basis as well. Thank you all for watching, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about Hulk the End or some other Peter David stuff down in the comment section down below. Let me know everything you recommend if you're a big Hulk fan. Like I said, I'm new to a lot of this stuff, and I would like to check out more of it sometime. This was cool, and I had a good time. So anyway, let me know everything you think down below. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.